Scott Whitley here, and welcome to this second video on the subject of recording bass. Hope you enjoyed the last lesson. As you probably already know, these videos aren't listed anywhere on YouTube, so these are only available to you lucky subscribers. Okay, so please spread the word, get people to jump on the website and subscribe, and they can have these videos free as well. What I'm going to do in this lesson is a couple of things. I'm going to do what I said I was going to do in the last lesson, which is to look at how to mix bass in a track. But I'm also going to quickly go through the process I talked about last week of actually recording a part, and so you can see how I go about it. Okay, it's not going to go terribly into depth, and I'm just going to be using a couple of backing tracks to make life easier. Okay, so these are just bass backing tracks you can download from the internet, a couple of quid each if you want to have a go yourself. So let's just recap on the stuff and actually put it into practice here that I was talking about last week. So first and foremost, the setup of the bass. Well, I'm really picky about the setup of my basses, probably too picky. So this one, you know, it's kind of, you know, everything's as it should be. The volume of the strings is even from the E through to the G. The action's nicely set. Plays really nice. Everything's pretty much as it should be, so we can kind of skip that. If there are any glaring errors, I'd have dealt with them here, but unfortunately I'm too picky about my bass setup, so there we go. Equipment wise, what I'm going to be using here today, nothing fancy, really affordable stuff. This is a, you know, a reasonably priced ESP bass. It's just got two humbucking pickups on it, 3-band EQ, and a pan pot for the pickups and a volume. Okay, I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. I'm going from this directly into this M-Audio mobile pre unit here. Okay, said before, this isn't an expensive unit, but it works really well. And normally I'd monitor with headphones straight from this jack here, so that's what's going on there. I'm just monitoring into the headphones straight from the unit. That my monitors are switched off. There's no sound from the bass or the track coming into the room. Okay, so the thing that I was talking about last week was keeping it clean. Now you might not be able to see very clearly here, but I've got a signal LED. It's very sort of basic, the metering on this thing. There's a signal LED and a clip. And what I want to do is turn the bass up full. That's pretty much how I'd always record my bass, unless I need to do any kind of volume swells or changes. And I'm just going to play as hard as I'm likely to play. And I'm not seeing any of the clip LED. Now I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get a little bit more gain. It's very sensitive. Let's see. I'm playing harder than I'm likely to play in the piece here. Okay, let's go a little further. Try that. Clipping, okay. I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera. We'll see. I'm editing the video, okay, but we've got a clip LED there. So I want to go back a little bit. I don't want to see that. I don't want to accidentally cause that to happen, okay. But I only want to go fractionally back. That's it. If I really hit it hard now, I get a clip LED, and I'm pretty certain in this tune I'm not going to be playing that hard, so I'm happy with that now. Okay, so I'm using, as I have done for a long number of years, Cubase. It's an old version now, but I'm used to it. I like what it does. So I've created an audio track here, and obviously I'm not going to go too much into how to operate the recording software, because every piece of software is slightly different. So so what I'm going to do now is just I've got a little monitor button here, so I can click that. I don't use it, it's direct monitoring, so I can hear back through the software by playing, and you'll hear why, because there's a slight delay and it causes a kind of chorus. You'll hear this now. Cool sound, but not what I'm after. All right, but I can see that I'm getting signal going straight into the recording software. So I'm going to turn that off now. Now I'm happy about that. Oh, actually, just before I do, I'm being a bit lazy. I've not got a tuner in, an actual physical tuner here. So I've got one loaded up on the screen in an Ampeg plugin. Okay, so I'm just going to check my tuning here. Okay, I'm going to start with a G. Now it's slightly sharp. Now if you're slightly sharp when you check your tuning, always tune slightly under and back up. I'll show you. Watch. Slightly under and then gently back up until you just hit it. And you've always got to just move and just hang on a second, because the string will just slip for a sort of couple of milliseconds after. Alright, there we go. Yep, D's fine. The A's just a hair under. Let's just give it a nudge. Yeah, the E. Yeah, that'll do, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to turn that monitoring off now, so that back to that. Okay. Right, the track I'm going to do here today is a crazy little thing called Love. All right, these bass backing tracks are quite limited. All right, and I thought that was a kind of middle of the road pop thing, and it's not sort of featuring all the slap thing that I'm into. So I figured it would be a good choice, good all round one to have a stab at. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is, I mean, I know this song reasonably well. Okay, at the minute I don't know what key it's in, so you might see me fumble a little bit at first, but I'm just going to put it into record. I'm just going to kind of play along and get a feel for it, and then have a listen back and see how it feels. Now I've got a kind of tone in mind that I'm going to use for this. I'm quite familiar with the song, I'm sure most of you are. There's obviously the Queen version, the very famous version. I think Bublé's done a version of it. And I'm hearing a really kind of rootsy P bass kind of tone on this one, right? So straight away, I'm going to put my bass all the way onto the front pickup, okay? Okay, you get that kind of warm thing. And I'm going to leave the EQ completely flat. I'm not going to boost or cut anything, okay? And the volume's at full, all right? So we'll just check that gain again. Same thing, if I hit it really hard, I'm just getting the slightest clip on there, but it's only flickering when I really hit it, and I'm not hearing any distortion, so I'm going to go with that, okay? So here we go. I'm going to put it into record. We're in D, okay? Okay, that'll do. All right. So there's a little practice, a little bit of getting used to it, seeing how my monitoring is. Now, as it happens, just tell you what's good, because you should be able to hear, hopefully on the video, what I've just heard. Bass was plenty loud enough, I felt. You know, I wasn't struggling to hear it. It was at a nice point where if I started to dig in too much, it didn't sound nice. So it was keeping me controlled with the playing. I'm happy with that. I could hear the track plenty, that's important. Not got a click track going on this one, okay, so I'm just literally playing to the finished backing track that's there, the drums and everything. So yeah, I'm feel like I'm happy to have a go to take. I'm going to have a listen back to that. I know I did some silly things, some couple of mistakes, couple of inappropriate things, but I'm just going to get a quick feel of how it sounds and take it from there. So let's. Yeah, that's all right. I felt like in the first verse I was maybe kind of just rushing a little bit. I think the chromatic walking stuff, some of the sort of slightly, not that they're fancy, but fancier bits maybe aren't necessary. So I'm going to keep this as simple as possible, I'd say, and going to give it a go. So here we go. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to Control Z that, undo. Back to the beginning and give it another go. Here we go. Okay, so what happened there is I was kind of getting into the feel of the thing, and a couple of ideas came to me, but a bit last minute, and I fluffed them a little bit. One of them was playing some nice little chords on the those bits. Okay, I thought it'd be nice to play those as chords. All right, so the notes are chromatic from a D. So if I do that down here, and then I've got, we can put what I'm doing there is a little chord, a major third on the top. Okay, and just need to give it a little flavour, a little cheeky bit of bass sneaking in there that perhaps shouldn't, which is what I like, you know. So so I'm going to give that one more go up to this point. Okay. In fact, I'm going to drop in, I think it was probably fine up to this. Oh, that's alright. There we go. So I'm going to try and drop in around that point, just before those chords, alright. So I'm going to just set this so that it drops me in at that point there. Okay, here we go. As I say, you know, using the actual recording software is a lesson in itself. So so we kind of covered that elsewhere. Here we go. So you get the idea. So let's just have a quick listen back to that. I'm going to turn the volume down on the bass. It's not ringing. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now comes the part of mixing the bass. Okay, the sound's not bad. We tried to get as close as we could from the instrument. One thing I'd like to point out actually is to try and keep your notes as even as you can, so that every note you play is the same, unless you want it to be louder particularly, is the same volume, the same velocity. Okay, and that means that all the notes have the same kind of tone and sound. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save. That's really important. Save when you're happy with a take. Save it, and then what I do is I'll save as I go on and do more work on a thing. I'll save it as say this is called Crazy Little Thing Called Love. I then save it as Crazy Little Thing Called Love 2 and 3, and then I can always go back to an earlier kind of revision if things go wrong. So let's go ahead and have a look at the bass sound. Okay, I'm going to put the bass so it just kind of loops. Not a proper loop. It's going to be annoying every time it loops round, but at least we can just keep working on the sound. Okay, as I say, we're not working to a click here, so the bar lines don't match up. But here we go, and I'm going to set it playing. Solo the bass. Okay, it's not a bad tone, but by the nature of wanting to get that kind of vintage tone, I want to lose some of that that kind of, you know, that almost clicky treble that's going on there. Okay, that's so what I'm going to do first and foremost is I'm going to use a little plugin that's I use a lot now, and it's it emulates tape saturation. Now in the good old days of tape, what we used to do is drive the signal quite hard onto the tape, and it'd add some compression. It'd take a little bit of the dynamic range out of the instrument in a really nice way, and it'd drive a little bit. So I'm going to try some of that. I like to use this. I use a little plugin called V-Tape, I think it's called. V-Tape Saturation. Now hear that hiss? That's the one bit I don't want, so I turn that down. Okay, I'm just going to go for a quick preset. I'll go for 2 dB compression and turn that hiss off, and let's have a listen to that. I'll punch it in and out. That's with it in, that's without. Now I shut my eyes a lot when I'm mixing and doing this. That's real subtle. I'm going to just drive it a little bit. The reason I close my eyes is because, believe it or not, I find sometimes looking at things on the screen can be quite distracting. You can almost be led to, if it looks good, it sounds good. I know it sounds crazy, but so I'm going to go for 4 dB compression, turn that hiss off again. Let's have a listen. Okay, that's with it on, and that's with it off. Now I'm happy with that. It's just giving it a bit of a boost. It's giving it some energy, you know, some warmth. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that in. Okay. Not going to touch any EQ at the minute. But what I want to do now, this is the thing I really had in mind from the word go, is I'm going to use some amp modeling, some amp simulation. Okay. Now I'm going to use a thing called Ampeg SVX. Okay, now it's a really cool plugin because it looks like an Ampeg amp, and they always sound better when they look good. All right, not true. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose, because I know my you know, I know the various Ampeg models. I'm going to choose this B15R, right, which is basically modelled on a nice old. Oh, and I'm going to change the cab as well. You can change the cab there. And I want a 1B18 or a 1B15 type thing, so I'm going to use this B15R, sorry, yeah, B15R cab there. So now we've got a simulated 15-inch combo, basically, or amp. I think it's the, is it Portaflex. Yeah, it's the doesn't matter. Just talking to myself there. Okay, now there's a high level switch here. I want to turn the tweeter off because I don't want those highs to come through. I want the sound of playing through a big 15-inch speaker, and that really attenuates anything above, I don't know, 4 or 5K, something like that. So just listen to this, okay? Let's turn it off, and then I'll switch it on and see if you can hear the difference. So that's with it off and on. Have you got any difference? You need your ears fixing. Really quite obvious, isn't it? Okay, so it's kind of getting there. I'm going to go back to the amp here. I'm going to look at the EQ. Okay, I'm going to check none of these silly buttons are pressed. No, ultra low and stuff. I'm going to turn the gain up until I start to hear maybe a little bit of edge. It's staying clean all the way. So I'm going to turn the master down a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to keep that gain quite up because it's not adding a great deal of drive, but I think it's warming it up slightly. So now I'm just going to listen to the overall EQ of the thing. Pretty happy with that. I think I'd like a bit more bottom end, a little bit more bass. I'm going to see how the bass control works on the amp. That's pretty nice. Okay, let's stop it there. Now, I'm getting quite happy with that sound already, okay? What I'm going to do is go back to the cab, and a lot of these kind of plugins have these kind of features. You can choose the simulated mics. Now, as a rule, two general rules I find. If you're using a condenser, okay, or a model condenser like this, a big one, large diaphragm thing, then you get a more of a hi-fi kind of sound, and you get a fatter bottom end, okay. The kind of sub frequencies are a bit more pronounced, almost slightly mid scooped. A mic I like to use a lot in real real life, if you like, is an SM57. I also like to use the model one, and let me just switch that in a minute. And with the SM57, I find you get a slightly more focused, slightly more mid-range focused kind of sound. All right, so check this out. So there's the condenser. Switch it to the 57. Here we go. Okay, it's very subtle, but to me, as I say, it's just a little less subby and a bit more kind of focused. So I'm just going to switch back between the two. I think I'm liking the 87, the model Neumann mic there. Okay. Let's see how that's sitting with the track. All right, I'm going to unmute the bass now. Try the other mic. Turn it up a bit. Alright, I instantly preferred the kind of middly 57 thing there. It gives it a bit more kind of poke, you know. The one thing I'm not liking is I'm still hearing too much of that kind of clanky treble. Let's solo the bass again. Too much of that. So let's just attenuate that here. Let's see how that is in the mix. that's pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm pretty happy with that, I would say. So I'm going to save that. Okay, and I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to add a compressor. All right, and this is just going to make sure that there aren't any kind of extraneous notes just kind of popping out volume wise. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to insert a really simple you know, a straightforward Cubase compressor here. Okay, let's pull that over here, and I'm going to set the ratio to about 4. Okay, with this kind of thing I'm happy with the attack as it is. What I'm going to do is just play the track, and I'm going to adjust the threshold until I just see a little bit of gain reduction on just literally the odd note. I'm happy with that now. Okay, so all I will do now is, because I've been focusing so much on that bass, I've probably got used to it being quite high in the mix, and I do like the bass quite high in the mix. I know a lot of people that do, because if it's mixed properly, it's just kind of not in any other instrument's sonic space, so you can get away with it really kind of having a nice presence there without it really fighting with any of the other instruments. So let's just have a listen from the top. Okay, I'm going to just pull it down a little bit in volume and just see how we go. Okay. I like that. It's not in your face, but you can still hear the tonal quality. You can hear some of the upper mids in the instrument. It's not buried under everything. It's not just kind of some subby functional thing. It's a musical instrument still, which is what we're looking for. It's not fighting with anything. It's nice and warm. So I'm happy with that. I would 99% say, yeah, that's the bass kind of sound sorted. Okay. Couple of things before I sign off on mixing bass. Couple of things that tips really that might help. One of the biggest problems with mixing bass is trying to get the bass so you can hear it clearly, but it's not too loud and fighting with the other instruments, what I was talking about before. And I found a neat little trick, and it works really well, is instruments such as guitars, acoustics particularly, have loads of bottom end in them, and unless it's a really acoustic type number, all that bottom end is pretty much unnecessary. So what I'll do is roll off, use a low pass, high pass filter or a low shelf, and get rid of pretty much anything from kind of 75 kind of downwards really. So center it at about 75 and just pull it all out, and most of the time in the mix you just won't hear that sort of, I'm going to call it a lack of bottom end. It just doesn't need to be there. And what you find is all of a sudden, if you do that to all the guitar parts, maybe even some of the keys parts, then all of a sudden what you find is the bass is just sitting really nicely in the track, really nice quality, kind of clean solid quality to the bottom end of the track, and the and all the guitars, they're just kind of cutting through over the top, no problem. Okay, so that's a good little rule of thumb. Another one that I find tends to work is that a nice kind of little bit of a boost at around 180 to 100 hertz on the bass gives it just a nice little bit of warmth, a little bit of bottom end, and kind of to make the bass kind of fit nicely with the kick drum. Sometimes if you dip that frequency but boost slightly below with the kick, you know, maybe 65 or something like that, then you find the two things just fit so nicely together like that. You've got the kind of more the click of the kick drum, if you know, or the snap, that's the slap above that point, and the sub below, and so that tends to work really as well. So, in other words, the kick drum and the bass, they can be quite tricky to EQ to work well together. So what I'm saying is, if you're boosting something on one of those things, perhaps remove it on the other and see what happens. So I hope that helps. As usual, if you've got any questions whatsoever, drop me an email on scott@scott.whitley.com. Please check out the website, see if there's any updates at www.scott-whitley.com, and please pass on the news about these videos. If you find them useful, let others know about them, please. Suggest that they subscribe, and then they get these free exclusive videos as well. I think that's about it for now, so see you next time. Cheers.